friends, and welcome to Talking with Bad People's Delineration and Waddlecootery live stream. Delineration and Waddlecootery live stream. Now, to begin the live stream, I'd like to discuss the concept of delineration. So anytime you take a set of whatever and you both delineate it and iterate it, that's known as delineriterating. And if you've got a lot of sort of stuff that is associated with the field of delineration, then you're known to have a substantial quantity of delineration. Now, naturally, most delineration is not also an example of waddlecootery. Waddlecootery being basically the paraphernalia of waddlecooting. Rarely do those two sets overlap. Occasionally, you'll get something that's both an example of delineration and waddlecootery, but that's very rare. It's going to have to be a pants, obviously. I was discussing with Senjin waddlecooting earlier. He says he owns 0 shorts. He's declared himself entirely wriggler free. But I was aware of the fact that if you read his words carefully, it doesn't say he didn't just throw all his shorts away after I alerted him to the risks of the wriggling waddlecoot. Anyway, so you could say that I delineriterated the waddlecootery so as to increase his delineration at the expense of his waddlecootery. That would be fair to say. Now, I'm just hypothesizing. I don't know. It's possible he threw his shorts away a long time ago. Maybe he never owned any shorts. Maybe he never cut off a pair of jeans. Who knows? And maybe I've never heard of the Beatles. This stream is mostly about delineration and waddlecootery. Now, it's about a lot more than that, though, Thomas Yates. It's about what's your question and how can I answer it in a way that leaves you, Thomas Yates, feeling satisfied, whole, realized, optimized, actualized, and enlightened. What is delineration? Well, let's take those questions one at a time. It's really 2 questions, isn't it? Question number 1 is, what is delineration? And question number 2, what is waddlecootery? Okay, the first question. To delinerate is to engage in a process that is simultaneously both delineation and iteration. So anytime you are iterating something and concurrently delineating something, then you are delineriterating something. Now, if you've engaged in delineration that's resulted in physical artifacts, those physical artifacts are known as delineration. Okay? Now let's go into the question of what is waddlecootery. Waddlecoot is the male version of camel toe, in which one wears a thin pair of, for example, sweatpants, and one can see the outline of one's schlong against the pants if one is looking towards one. If a third party is looking towards one, well, then that third party would point and say, "You're waddlecooting," or "Waddlecoot, dude," something like that. Okay, now the question though is not what is waddlecoot, but rather what is waddlecootery, and the answer to that is, as delineration is to delineration, so too waddlecootery is to waddlecoot. It is to say the physical artifacts associated with the phenomenon of waddlecooting. So, for example, let's say I had a pair of pants that were exceedingly expressive in their waddlecootishness. well, then that pair of pants would comprise some of my total set of waddlecootery. Waddlecootery has caused huge problems for me. Well, I mean, Matthew, I want to reassure you. First of all, you're not alone. Second of all, there's no reason to be deeply, deeply, deeply ashamed about it. A little bit of shame is fine. And third, let me just say, if it hadn't been waddlecootery that was your cross to bear in life, it would have been something else. Maybe cerebral palsy or something. So, not that bad. It's about the same as cerebral palsy. Okay, other thoughts about delineration, waddlecootery, the conflation of the two, or the combination of the two potentially? It's not a conflation. Can we find areas where we can delinerate? Like, for example, if I were to both specify all the items in my closet full of waddlecootery and also distinguish between that which was regular waddlecootery and that which was specific to regular waddlecoots, well, then that would be an example of delineration. Okay? Because then I'd be both delineating and iterating the set of waddlecootery into two subsets, that which correlates strongly with regular waddlecoot and that which correlates strongly with regular waddlecoot. Okay, any other questions? I'm not just fielding waddlecootery and delineration of failure questions tonight, although naturally they're going to dominate the topic of the conversation because so many people are fascinated in. And it's not easy, to learn all the different forms of complex conceptual linguistic bombs like waddlecoot and delineration or delinerate is to level up spiritually, intellectually, morally. So I get that people are going to be all four of you are going to be a little bit obsessed. Yes, Thomas Yates? Or you're just informing me of that? You have to tell me. Okay, well, then that's something. The first woman I was ever with told me, all you do is delineate your waddlecootery and give, and vice versa. You never touch me. I think she must have taken that dialogue from a movie or something. It's so stereotypically woman de-virginizing a young waddlecooter, unaware, maybe even these waddlecooting, and taking that natural, simple, not malicious phenomenon and turning a waddlecoot into a mega waddlecoot for no reason. Is what true? Matthew's anecdote, it sounds true. I mean, I've heard that a million times. It's not like he's trying to tell some sort of tall tale. When women de-virginize young men, or girls de-virginize young men, or whatever, maybe the same age or whatever, what do they normally do? They're like, but come on now, they say, encouraging, come on, take your penis out of your pants. All you do is delineate your waddlecootery. I'm sick of it. I want those pants off of you, young man. And then, the guy's normally like, I'm not delineating, I'm just iterating. It's like, no, you're not. You're delineating. What am I delineating, Mary? What? You're delineating the head from your shaft. That's how explicit your waddlecoot is today. That's not a delineation. It's a naturally occurring differentiation. It doesn't count. Well, you just iterated some differences. Boom! You just delinerated, motherfucker. All true. It's all true. The great thing, Thomas Yates, that you can always count on is that every word out of my mouth is like a platinum crucifix bathed in a basin of Catholic holy water, bathed in a basin of Baptist holy water, bathed in a basin of God's big church holy water. The notion that it might not be true destroys the entire known universe with its audacious hubris. So audacious is the hubris that even though hubris itself means pride against God, and one can't get any more audacious than that, one must specify that this is especially audacious hubris, and thus add the adjective before the noun in question. So, I'm not sure I was talking about your comment, frankly. Words were just spilling out of me. Don't know what I was referencing. Not sure why I was saying them. I told her, look, I'd have time to touch you, but wasn't looking up at these words you use, babe. I wasn't looking up these words you use. Oh, that's funny. I can't find them. Are you sure to delineate Waddlecootery are words? Go to the store now. Okay, next time, listen, for anybody who watches this live stream, either live, any of the 5 of you, or who comes in later and watches it on a replay, next time your significant other says something like, hey, I'm on my way home from work. You want me to pick you up anything? I'm stopping by the Rouse or whatever. You say, if they're having any kind of sale on Waddlecootery, Delinerate me up a couple of those. Zandy in his house. Anyways, Andy, we're talking about Delineration and we're talking about Waddlecootery tonight. 2 of the most important foundational concepts of Western civilization. I think it's time that we form our own political party called the Waddlecoote Nationalists. Okay? Be just like white nationalists, except instead of differentiating, instead of delinerating people out according to something make-believe like race, we will be sensible about it and we'll delinerate the people out based on Waddlecootery. So we're going to be the Waddlecoote Nationalists. Waddlecooter is a word that was born to thrive. In fact, my thinking about Waddlecooting reminded me of one of my previous incarnations of an equivalent kind of thing, which was, of course, delineritate. Delineration, delinerating, deliniteration of failure. So I thought I'd cross-reference to see how easy they were to use in the same sentence. I got some other exciting words as well. What was the other one with deliniterate? I had back in the day. Another word like that too that I started using for a while. Anyway, the point is that in general, I'm just doing my part to spread the word because somebody alerted me in a comment earlier that next month is Waddlecoot Awareness Month. So things have moved pretty quickly. Since I just discovered this truth the other day, they've already declared a whole month in honor of being aware of it. I'm not sure what color ribbon you're supposed to wear, but I know exactly where you're supposed to wear it. Can you guess? Where on your clothing should you pin it? Directly to your what? Your Waddlecoot. Naturally. Now, if you're a lady and you want to show yours for Waddlecoot awareness. Obviously, you don't have a Waddlecoot, so you can't pin it there. You just pin it to your shirt, or put it in your hair, or whatever is fine. You're just showing solidarity at that point. You're not actually directly. Well, I guess you are directly impacted by the Waddlecoots, especially the Wrigglers. Nobody wants to get on a Wriggler, like say out of the library, or out for some coffee at the Starbucks and sit down in your chair right across from a wriggling Waddlecoot. Makes a man want to go outside and dump his coffee down into the storm drain. But regardless, I'm not deleting any comments. Oh, I see. I'm on top chat. You mean, am I not reading yours, or what? Are they disappearing, or what? Now I'm on live chat instead of top chat. So if I miss some, okay, let's see. Oh, I see. It's just, it's like I had it on live chat, right? And live chat, the chats that it thought were important of yours enough, Thomas Yates, to show me were, hey, Eric, I have something to tell you. And is that true? Is this true? It didn't decide to include the one in between where it says, in a stream you said, after watching the video debate between no bullshit and vegan gains, you said the only way to be a vegan in an argument is to eat meat. I didn't say that. I never said that. I said I think that the veganism wins the argument chain. That I could beat him for sure, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that veganism wins the argument chain. In other words, arguing against myself, I think I'd win supporting the side of veganism, which means it's correct because it has the strongest arguments. That's what I said. How is your comment audacious? Who knows? I told her it was in the comment about no BS and vegan gains. You said that the only way to beat a vegan is to meat, right? Roll call here. I said that? I'm sure it was. I never said that. I have no recollection of saying that. I would recall saying that, even if it were intended as a joke. I think I'd recall saying that. I think you must have misheard my words. But I have no recollection of ever saying that, and it's not the kind of joke I'd make. It's a little off for me. I mean, it's similar to jokes I might make, but that's not me. I didn't say that. I'm quite confident of it. Now I'm back to where I was. Tied around some wood. You're tied around some wood? Desert INTJ? Who tied you to the wood? Or you mean your Waddlecoot is tied around some wood? I mean, woodcoots are, absolutely not appropriate. We didn't even want to go into the woodcoots, but fine, of course. I'd have time to touch you if I wasn't looking up these words you use. That's so funny. What do you do for my Waddlecooter awareness? Is my pink pussy hat useful for this or anything? You need something else. I think the colors for Waddlecooter awareness are puce, mauve, and there's one more if I remember correctly. Puce, mauve, and what's it called? Oh yeah, dirt. Puce, mauve, and dirt. 3 colors, okay, for Waddlecooter awareness. Now, note, puce and mauve are the official colors for Waddlecooter awareness, but dirt or earth, either shade of brown is acceptable, or dark sandy dirt, something like that, somewhere in there. That's the color that's specific for Wriggling Waddlecoot awareness, and so they toss it in a lot, and now you got kind of a tricolor thing going on. If you have trouble finding puce or mauve, um, a light puce would probably work. A dark mauve would be okay. Okay, veganism is an FIDOM symptom. It's not their fault. I mean, I don't oppose veganism. I think it's a fine thing. It's just, I'm not going to do that. I hadn't eaten meat besides fish for years, but they brought me a burger at the bar the other week, and I just ate it. It was so weird. I'd been just listening to the Rowan Russell Brand discussion on it. Okay, well, what makes eating fishes okay and not other animals? Hunting earlier? Were you hunting? Rogan. Huh. Do you think ENFPs eat meat for a reason, or are they just ignorant of the situation? I mean, the thing is, there are multiple ways to avoid what would seem to be something of an ethical NI truth regarding animals. For me, it's that I can justify it because it doesn't run afoul of my rights calculus. Of course, I don't like the fact that means distancing myself from the notion of animal rights and approaching the question of responsibility to attend to animal well-being from a different angle. But I guess that's how I justify it. But the truth is, I don't justify it. I say to myself, I guess this is sort of a justification, that that's not where I'm directing my moral agency right now. And that's it. It's like, if I give to a charity or something, you might well critique me by saying, that's the wrong charity to give to, or that's not enough, you need to give to this other charity or something. Everybody only has so much moral agency to direct to so much stuff. You might claim that veganism is a negative responsibility and therefore preempts those other ones, and that's where I would tend to agree with you intellectually, but I don't care enough to change my behavior. I don't prioritize it over other things, I guess. I like meat. I have an extremely high metabolism. I need a lot of fat and protein. I mean, a lot. Or else I just feel weak. And I'm sure I could get probably enough calories and stuff, and like protein and fat and everything, provided I could at least like cook it in lard or something. But not even that, then I'm just gonna kind of gradually starve. Whether or not I have a moral responsibility is a separate question from whether or not it's good for me. And they do have an intersection, but I don't think it's good for me. I don't think it would be good for me. I don't have any experience to prove that, per se. I never got any extended period without eating meat, but yeah. They were debating hunting. Who cares about your hair being messy? Your beard is glorious anyway. Is my hair messy? Oh. They're all flattening it with my hand. There. Oh, I know what else they could do. I've got an idea. Oh, yeah. There we go. Now my hair is neat and tidy. Looks like a black hat. Okay, so here we are. The meat felt weird in my mouth for sure, but I just went with it. I just figure I keep waddling the cooter anyway till I was done. Well, your body is probably extremely grateful to finally get some thorough nutrition. The thing is, I'm a moral non-realist, so I don't think there is a morality to the situation at hand. Okay, well, do you think there's a morality to anything ever? She's very blunt, and she's like, I'm just helping, but your hair is messy. Oh, St. John, you were talking to Charles Benson. Why care about your hair being messy? Your beard is glorious anyway. I assumed you were talking about glorious beard. You're talking about mine, of course. Now that I realize I'm in the company of Charles Benson, I have to acknowledge my beard does not deserve the adjective glorious in the same room with Charles Benson. Probably in any room. It's more like, yeoman-like. It's a yeoman-like beard. It's not timid, but it's not glorious. Now, Charles Benson, I don't think he overreached with that adjective there, Jan. I think glorious is right, especially with the streaks of gray there. Give an extra sort of angular architecture to the whole thing. I agree. Glorious, or you could even say what would be it? I think you could lay claim to my beard is an outlier. Or like that. You don't even say it's an outlier in what, right? It could be anything. But whatever it is, it's an outlier. Okay. She's a neat freak. She'll be like, that's dirty. Here's the way to fix it, baby. La la. To me, it sounds like TE parent tool ox. I just think it's important people don't take for granted the meat and realize it's an animal more than anything, really. Yeah, I wish I lived that reality that I agree with, but I don't. Concern for living beings should be deliberated judged at ecosystem level, not at your plate level. I mean, it's very NI of you. I continue to do it mostly for ego reasons anyway, not wanting to quit being pescatarian, but that was a big burger. Oh, well, I mean, like, what do you mean ego reasons, not wanting to quit? You mean you don't want to be perceived as having quit, or you feel like you personally, I don't understand what else it would mean, actually. Local hunted meat is greater than industrial cultivated soja coming from the other side of the world. What's soja? I don't even know what soja is. She's a neat freak and a germaphobe. She's my special girl. Squirts me with her Lysol and a moistened towelette. Yes, I figured that out. I think I could be healthy with it, but it requires planning on the no meat or especially vegan thing. You have to have these protein shakes ready to go and supplements ready. You just can't hope the diet will sort itself out. I mean, the thing is, we get so many eggs. We get an egg each day from these chickens, and the chickens are not feeling remotely exploited. Those chickens adore us. They want to spend all their time with us. They feel exploited when we won't let them come and live in the house with us. It's ridiculous to think that it's not okay for us to eat their eggs. They're happy to give us those eggs and thank you for all the wonderful caregiving we provide. So anybody says we shouldn't eat eggs, that's just crazy. What are you going to do with them? The unfertilized ones. Should we kill all the chickens so we don't have to waste any eggs? I do get lazy and sometimes just let it go wild. It's mainly out of exhaustion and stress. Would you say that you transmute your exhaustion and stress into beard hair? I don't think morality has an objective basis in reality. The statement about morality being objective is not falsifiable and non-empirical. My morality is based on rational self-interest only. I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by morality. I mean, the thing is, the nature of morality is it makes a normative claim, namely that one ought to do something. Now, when you say the statement about that being objective is non-falsifiable and non-empirical, you're right about the second half, but you're wrong about the first. And non-empirical doesn't make something less real. And if you are in fact saying that your morality is based on rational self-interest only, rational self-interest is also non-falsifiable and non-empirical. That's actually non-empirical and non-falsifiable. Saying, I am going to have self-interest as in accordance with what measure of rationality, and there's no external validation. I think there's no external thing to validate against at all. Is an FI or a TI user more likely to believe that life begins at conception? Well, I mean, I believe that. I mean, it's not something you believe or disbelieve. It's indisputably true that life begins at conception. Now, what you mean by that question is really, is an FI or TI user more likely to use that as an argument against abortion? I mean, nobody can use words meaningfully and claim that life doesn't begin at conception, because the definition of conception is the beginning of a distinct organism. Let's see, rational is every bit as metaphysical as moral. I agree. Was your TI always so sound? No. I mean, a number of things have refined it over the years. Debates refined it. Coaching debates refined it. YouTube's refined it. Arguing with commoners refined it. Lots of things have. And the thing about an ENTP's approach to TI is we are fast and loose with keeping track of anything. So over the decades, we discover and rediscover the same thing over and over again, until it sinks in and becomes part of us for real, with part of our SI because of repetition. So we slowly build skills, and it's like these skill sets don't really come into play until they've been repeated enough times to become, instead of to being things that are rebuilt on the fly, they become skill sets. So it's kind of like you've got these skill sets building that aren't skill sets yet. And then as time happens, they'll like click into place, like a couple of them at a time almost. And then you kind of ignore them for a while and then you revisit them. It's weird being an ENTP. It's hard for me to answer these questions because I've always thought to myself, when thinking about SI, for example, that I've thought about it in terms of the schedules and the boring part of SI, as I think about it. But my limitations in SI run much deeper than that. As a fourth slot SI user, I can't remember shit. It was like I made that right ruminations debate video today, and I'm like, I thought I'd never. I thought this was the first time I'd talked to the guy or seen the guy really. Apparently, I type policed him in a video before and let him go at the end of it. It said, "Yeah, I guess you're enough chance you're an INTP, but it could be an IGA." But I have no memory of that. I'm 48 years old, but my memory has always been like that. It's always been that way. SI fourth slot is it. You got to remember that these sort of things are definitionally necessary or they're relationally necessary. So for a person to spend their time coming up with new ideas all the time, that means they are not keeping track of the new ideas they're coming up with, because that's a different kind of attention. And to the extent that they are keeping track of them, then it detracts from the amount of attention they're giving towards coming up with new ideas, which is exclusive of that. Makes sense since dominant is implicit and polar can fuck up with tertiary. Now here the tool function is what we're responsible for. Well, okay, look, the thing about the tool function is we hold ourselves to a high standard in using our tool function. And I'd additionally say that we don't really feel rewarded when we use it well. So I do appreciate getting that question about was my TI always so sound, but I appreciate it for FE reasons, it makes me happy to know that what I've worked hard at, which is to not give people openings to legitimately defeat things, right, is paying off in terms of me being perceived as having rock solid TI. So in that sense, it's an FE thing. How many people are you typing a week? I mean, it's influx right now. It's starting to grow. I was trying to think about it. It's like heretofore, I had not typed more than about, I mean, the most would be 10 in a month. But this month, I think I should be doing a little bit better than that, because we're looking at, it's like I had 2 on, I think, Monday, and then I didn't have any today. And I've got emails. I got some stuff to do tomorrow. I don't know. It's hard to count them almost. And Kimberly and I just sort of now trying to keep track of it and see how it's doing. But it's a hard question to answer. I'm hopeful that within maybe 6 months, I'd be able to get up to what I consider my maximum, which is 4 a day. If I could do that, we'd be looking at a lot of money. That'd be pretty cool. I'm down for that. So, yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if I could get 20 of them this month, which would be like $2,000. That's pretty good. Addition to my income for sure. Let's see. Do you consider yourself consistently sharp over the years? I mean, I went through a long period of reduced ability because of my alcoholic drinking. For especially the last few years of that alcoholic period, I was mostly just battling against dissolving into a drunken mess, But once I quit drinking, things cleared up pretty quickly in my head. And even before I quit drinking, I was still just as effective as a debate coach as I am now. Well, I wasn't as effective, but I was still good as a debate coach. I still had just as clear strategic vision, and I still understood argumentation just as well. So I don't know. It's something I worry about a lot, or not worry about, but it's something that crosses my mind a lot these days, because my mother has dementia. And, it's like I'll note when I struggle to find a word. But I also note and remember, I think accurately, that this is something that's always been the case, that periodically I'd struggle to look for a specific word that wouldn't come to mind immediately. So then I found myself worrisomely kind of parsing out whether this instance is a different degree or quality of searching, or whether instances of searching are occurring more frequently, or something like that. Stressing out about my mental acuity. But I mean, I just objectively, as far as I can tell, I'm not currently experiencing anything to indicate that I'm slowing down. I think I'm still actually going up to my peak, which I suspect will be around 55. I don't think it's going to be much older than that. So it's coming quick. I'm 48, After that, I suspect my mental acuity will start to slowly diminish. But for now, I'm as powerful intellectually and creatively as I'm ever going to be. I'm probably at my peak now, and I've got another 7-8 years at it as a entity. It may turn out, of course, that from a third-party perspective, I'm more successful after what I would consider my ontological peak, and other people might consider the peak of my career or something. Turns out to be after I'm 60 years old or something. It's quite possible, because I do plan to be president of the United States, and that might take a little bit of time to completely finish, attaining. I feel the same about valuing new ideas over remembering old ones, unless the idea is a fundamental underlying principle in an NI user. Well, the thing is, Ciaran O'Gorman, if you're an NI user, you're always going to prefer the takeaway from the high definition rendering of the experience. But if you are, depends where it is in the stack. If you're an NI DOM, you're going to have remembering an experience as sub-instrumental, at least serving your third slot hidden agenda of either FI or TI. And it will it'll operate in support of your first function. So SI will serve NI, which will serve either FI or TI. And when you're calling upon it in ways that make it easier or more successful for you to collapse things with NI, in other words, you can call upon examples that are consistent with your singular truth to validate it, whereas ENFJs can't. Alice Marie says she is definitely scared of getting dementia, losing my mind. I moved into an apartment a month ago and forgot how to turn up the shower yesterday. Law, it's stupid. Well, I mean, that can be, this depends on how the shower is putting together those things. It can be actually quite complicated. Explain third slot NI. Well, our third slot function is our hidden agenda in part because it's the other side of the missing piece of us. So it's like, since you don't have extroverted intuition, you get paid an introverted intuition. Let me see how I can better explain this. Okay. For an ISFP, an FI Dom, which means they're a deliberation Dom, that's necessarily going to mean they're a knowledge-based tertiary. So when you're a deliberation Dom, the reason you're a knowledge tertiary is because knowledge and interface always go together, and the interface is the fourth. So if you're a deliberation Dom, it means you're interface fourth, and what that means is you primarily deliberate, and you want somebody else to pick up the other half of that axis pair. So if you're an FI Dom, you want somebody else to do the interface, the TE, the actualization of interfacing with dynamic systems that's necessary to realize the FI goal, right? And so let me not get distracted by the chat. I'm really tired right now. So this is an instance where I'm going to display kind of slightly dementia-y qualities, and that'll start to worry me or whatever, because it'll take me a long time to connect thoughts. But I know this experience from many years of experience, that this is called tiredness molasses. It's happened before. I haven't been getting enough sleep the last several nights, for like 4 or 5 hours, and it catches up to you and it starts to slow me down. Regardless, to finish the NI third slot thing, you deliberate, then act. That's the way you go about the world. That's to say, you're going to figure out exactly what you're going to do ahead of time, and then you're going to go do it. Contrast that with an interface type. They're going to know what kind of situation it is, and then they're going to go interface with it to figure out what happens. Deliberators go, I'm going to deliberate out what I'm going to do, then I'm going to go do it. Interfacers, knowers go, I'm going to understand the frame, then I'm going to interface with it. So the thing is, since you're a deliberator, and then an interfacer, the fourth, you go, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my tool function to act on it. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. Really, in conjunction with action, then says the last thing I'm going to do, or I need somebody else to do for me, is the interface part. because I've defined how I interact with reality in terms of a turn-based modality. I'm going to withdraw, plan, act, versus a real-time modality. I'm going to arrive with understanding and then interface real-time until it's over and then come back and have other information. So that's why you need somebody else to do the interface for you, because you're deliberated by nature followed by an action type. Therefore, interface is necessarily going to be the least desirable of the modalities of interaction, which means your third slot, which is going to be your knowledge function, becomes your hidden agenda. And for you, it means because you decide what you're going to do, or you basically decide what you're going to do with your FI, and then you do it, you run afoul of interface related problems. I'm so accustomed to deliberating and acting that when things demand interface in front of me, that cause me problems and trip me up. So as a consequence, how do I compensate for that? I compensate for that and avoid those problems and attain my outcomes despite my shortcomings by using knowledge. If I know how, and if I know the frame, just like an interface type, then, and I know the frame well enough, then I can still manage to deliberate and act successfully. Even though it may not be appropriate inherently to the frame, if I know it well enough, I can compensate for its dynamism and instead behave as though it were static more, which is more natural to my 1-2 functions. That's a long answer and kind of complicated and not super clear. But that's basically, to understand slot dynamics, you gotta think of it as two modalities of interaction. One in which you withdraw, plan, and act, withdraw, plan, and act, and the other one in which you study the area and the frame and everything, and then go into that interaction as knowledgeable as you can, and then rely on the knowledge you brought in to be the fuel for your interface therein, in addition to the data that's right in front of your face. If you're going to have any advantage in the interface, it's going to have to be from being more knowledgeable ahead of time. Whereas the action deliberation kind, if they're going to have any advantage in the interface, then they need to be more successful at the deliberation. Okay. Do you think the vast majority of public speakers are TI-FE? Probably. I mean, it depends. The thing about TE types is, and FI types is, they're FI driven. They might like just about anything, including public speaking, and they might get good at it by using TE. So it's hard to say. Plus, school has a weird way of pairing people with inappropriate activities. Sometimes if you're a TE Dom, you'll get very good at those inappropriate activities. Like, you wouldn't think an INTJ would be a good public speaker, but I've seen plenty of INTJ debaters who, by the time they're done with high school debate, can turn on the sound like an ENTP switch a little bit and understand from debate all the different sort of phrasings and presentations that cause people to interpret things differently. Thomas H. says, I actually found that playing video games sharpened my mental acuity. I mean, it depends on the kind of video game, I guess. I know that a lot of those first-person shooters, they're proved to improve eye-to-hand coordination, for example, or something like that. But when you're talking about mental, like, it depends what certainly games have the capacity to do that, but it's really depending on what skills they're asking you to employ. So, even something like food, says Charles Winston, I'll be like, I get up at 12, I'm going to be hungry, think I'll go to Walmart or Whataburger. Max G94. So do your ENFP debate coaches not use TI in their debates? Is it all SI and TE? I don't have any anymore, but I guess it's worth pointing out that they were coaching in LD, and LD allows for a much more TE approach to debate than does either form or policy. So it's like in LD, you're always going to run certain blocks. There's a limited number of normative frames that people run usually, a limited number of kinds of critiques that people can run. Because it's not topic area, but instead resolution debate, and it's also LD is additionally to that, the value debate, so the resolutions are phrased in normative statements, it gets very difficult to run, successfully run counter plans in Lincoln Douglas, for example. Now, once you've got the scope of the possible argumentation limited into a few sets, even if they don't understand intuitively the TI of it, it's very easy to learn. You use this to respond to this by reading this and then say this, and blah, 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 blah. So they get the game part of it. It's like a card game, you know? Debate is like a card game where you have to articulate not only what you're playing, but what your opponent played and why what you're playing defeats what he played, you know? So that's basically what it is. So I wanted to, now that you mentioned that, I kind of want to share this image I have with everybody. So I think I'm going to try to upload it into Google Doc, probably be one way to do it. And it's an image I made for my debater, whom I worked with tonight, who I really want him to win Tournament of Champions. He's got a shot, amazingly. I never would have dreamed he had a real shot to do it this year when I first started working with him. Because when I got him, he was losing every single round. He hadn't won a round in like 2 tournaments. So, but his parents are serious about this shit. Like, they're having me go work with them every day